good sleep is everything. That's why Ollie's science-backed support is made with a blend of melatonin and L-theanine for both kiddos and grown-ups. So when your mind won't switch off, you've got something that can help. Your racing thoughts and restless nights won't stand a chance. Find Ollie Sleep Solutions for the whole family at ollie.com. That's OLLY.com.
You think your silence isn't doing anything. You think they pulled away or broke up with me, so they must be relieved, unbothered, maybe already moving on with their life, while you're the one left to suffer. But no, that is not always what happens, because when you stop chasing an avoidant, the silence starts doing something that they never expected. Of course, at first, it's going to feel like relief, but after that, it becomes the exact thing that forces them to confront what they lost, what they depended on, and what they were running from the entire time. So, in this video, I'm going to tell you exactly what your silence does to an avoidant. So, stay tuned. If you're new here, hi, my name is Lucia. I'm a dating and relationship expert specializing in helping you get your ex back or to get over your ex. And if you're not new, you're part of my no contact army. And welcome back. I hope you've been a good little soldier. All right, so you have to understand that when you get involved with an avoidant, there's this invisible script running in the background. At first, everything feels promising, right? There's chemistry, there's interest, there's moments of closeness that make you think that this could become something real. But then, over time, you start noticing the wall. They hold back, they go cold, they become hard to read, and they pull away just when things were getting closer. And because you're trying to make sense of it, you start to turn it inward. Maybe I said too much. Maybe I expected too much. Maybe they're not as interested as I thought. And that's where people get completely confused, because when an avoidant pulls away or breaks up with you, it looks like indifference. It looks like they don't care, like they just want distance and freedom and an exit. But looks can be very misleading here. Avoidants want distance, yes, but they don't actually want you gone. That's the paradox. They can feel overwhelmed by closeness, but they also become attached to what your attention does for them, because your attention comforts them. It validates them. It reassures them that they matter, that they're wanted, that someone is still emotionally invested. So while they're pushing you away on one level, they're also relying on your pursuit on another. Yes, I know, it's maddening. And that's why this dynamic is so confusing, because the very thing that they act burdened by is the very thing that's feeding them emotionally. They crave connection, but intimacy scares them. They want love, but control feels safer. They want closeness, but only until closeness starts making them feel exposed. So they keep you close enough to feel secure, but far enough away to avoid being vulnerable. Now, another big part of this dynamic is the mirror effect. When you care about someone, you reflect something back to them. You reflect their value, their desirability, their best qualities, and they see it in how happy you are to hear from them, how warm you are when they show up, and how much emotional energy you're investing in them. So when you keep pursuing an avoidant, you're constantly handing them this mirror. And as long as that mirror is there, they don't have to face themselves. They don't have to sit with their emotional unavailability, with how often they deliberately destroy closeness. They don't have to sit with the emptiness that comes after distance.
People are full of surprises, especially when you travel together. Thankfully, Vrbo is not. When you book a Vrbo, you get Vrbo Care and 24/7 live support, so your house doesn't surprise you like your friends might. If something's not as described or doesn't work, Vrbo's there. Real people, real support, anytime. Book today on the Vrbo app. If you know, you Vrbo. Terms apply. See vrbo.com/trust for details.
they can keep feeling like they're in control. Your attention softens the blow. It keeps telling them, hey, you still matter. You're still wanted. You still have power here. But the second you go silent, that mirror breaks, and suddenly they're left with the one thing that they spend so much time in their life trying to avoid: themselves. And that's what your silence does. It doesn't just remove pressure, it removes protection. And by the way, if you're dealing with an avoidant or with any type of ex, and you would like my help personally to get your ex back, you can contact me at theartoflove.net/coaching, and we will send you the rates. They're not on the website, and the clickable link is underneath every single video and podcast. Okay, let's get back to that invisible script I mentioned. So most avoidants are not reacting only to you. They're reacting to old fears, old defenses, old wiring. But that doesn't mean that you weren't pulled into the pattern, because once they start distancing, you likely started compensating. They pulled away, you leaned in. They got colder, you tried harder. They became inconsistent, you looked for reassurance. They withdrew, you chased. Not because you're weak, but because you were activated. Their behavior triggered your own fears about worth, lovability, and loss. So now both people are reacting from their wounds, and both people think the other one is to blame. In your mind, they're cold, inconsistent, selfish, impossible to trust. In their mind, you're too emotional, too needy, too demanding, too much. But usually the bigger problem is the script. They feel overwhelmed, so they run. You feel abandoned, so you pursue. They feel more pressure, so they withdraw harder. You feel more panic, so they push more, and the connection gets destroyed by the pattern. This is why no contact changes everything. This is exactly why chasing never fixes this, because the more you chase, the less they have to confront losing you. They stay focused on escape and getting relief from your emotions. So even if they care, they're not really dealing with the loss, they're dealing with the intensity. That's why walking away matters. Not to manipulate them or punish them or play games, but because it's the only way to interrupt the script. And once you stop chasing, they can't organize the whole relationship around escaping you because you're not chasing them. And by the way, if you'd like some help with not chasing them and staying in no contact, you can check out my app Silencio, which is available in both the App Store and on Google Play, and the link to that is underneath every single video and podcast. And you can also check out my book, No Contact Secrets, available, of course, at nocontactsecrets.com, where you can read 2 free chapters before you purchase the book. Okay, so as I was saying, so now they have to face something else, your absence. Now, at first, avoidants are not going to feel your absence. As I said earlier, they feel relief. The pressure's off, the expectations are gone, the emotional debt feels lifted, they can breathe again. And this is where a lot of people start to panic and they ruin everything because they sense that relief and they think, see, I knew it. They never cared. No, that first wave of relief is real, but it's temporary because relief isn't the same as peace. Relief just means that the stimulus is gone. It doesn't mean the attachment is gone. And once the nervous system settles down, something else starts creeping in.
There's no one like you, and there never will be.
From the producer of Bohemian Rhapsody, there are many legends, but there is only one. Michael, rated PG-13, in theaters April 24.
The silence. And this is where your silence starts doing its real work. Because at first, they were focused on your neediness, but now they're forced to deal with your absence. At first, they were focused on escaping the intensity, and now they're left with what's missing. And when your attention disappears, they lose the thing that they've been quietly using to regulate the whole time, and they probably didn't even know it. You were the dopamine hit. You were the validation. You were the one still showing up, no matter how much they pushed you away. And now all of that's gone, and their internal structure starts to wobble. And here's the irony. They thought that distance would protect them, but now the very strategy that they trusted most starts creating the exact suffering they were trying to avoid. because when your silence gets loud, they're no longer buffered by your presence, by your attention, or your pursuit. They're left alone with the self they kept running back to for safety. But if they're not healed, that's not peace. That's fear. That's loneliness. That's old pain. So the place they ran to for protection starts to feel like a prison. So now they're not reacting to your presence anymore. They're haunted by your absence. And that's a very different emotional experience. That's why you have to stay in no contact. So instead of viewing you only as a source of pressure, they start remembering the good moments. They remember how safe you made them feel, your warmth, your loyalty, your consistency, your emotional generosity. And with time, the mind starts to soften painful memories and highlight the emotional comfort. So they stop focusing only on what felt overwhelming and they start remembering what felt good. And this is when the pedestal that they're standing on starts to crumble, because now they're not being chased anymore. Now they're not in control of the connection. Now they're the one who has to wonder, well, do they still care? Are they moving on? Did I lose someone important? Will I ever get them back? And when they realize they're not over you, that's when many avoidants start spiraling internally. Not necessarily outwards or dramatically, but inwardly, yes. Because now they have a problem that they cannot solve through distance. Because they thought that pulling away would bring peace. And instead, it created a different kind of pain. And when that emotional crash happens, the brain starts looking for what's missing and starts circling back to the person who used to make them feel grounded, wanted, and emotionally safe. And that person is you. And that's when curiosity turns into longing. And that's when silence starts working in your favor instead of against you. And this is when they might begin to realize that you were never the burden that they made you out to be in their mind. You were the person who kept loving them while they were busy defending themselves from love. But you got to keep this in mind. Missing you is not enough. Just because an avoidant misses you, it doesn't mean that they're ready for a healthy relationship. Because missing you is not the same as changing. And reaching out is not the same as being ready. And some avoidants do come back, but they come back for different reasons. Some come back because they truly realized your value. Some because they hated losing access, or their ego's bruised, or because silence makes them anxious, or because they want relief but not repair. So that's why your standard has to be higher than, oh, they contacted me, oh, I want them to contact me. No, it has to be beyond that. The real question is, are they willing to come back with intention? Are they willing to be clear, to take accountability, to do the work that's required to stop repeating this vicious cycle? Because if they want a future with you, they don't just need to reach out. They need to earn you back. So if you were wondering what your silence does to an avoidant, don't assume it's not doing anything. A lot of the time, your silence is the first thing that truly forces them to feel the loss. They may not admit it. They may not show it. They may not even understand what the heck is happening to them. But once you stop chasing, the script starts to break. And when the script breaks, they're no longer dealing with your presence. They're dealing with your absence. And for an avoidant, that can be way more destabilizing than they ever expected. So now I'd like to hear from you. Do you have any questions or comments about anything I've said in this video? And in the meantime, be sure to subscribe so you don't miss out on future videos or podcasts. And remember, love inspires, empowers, uplifts, and enlightens.